Hey, come here. You like pro wrestling? We got a little something for you. Two fans, 3,000 miles away. We each been watching for more than 30 years. Celebrate the art form, the action, the homoeroticism. We ain't rating matches. We ain't analyzing stories. We ain't experts. We just sit down, shut up, and mark out! Welcome, everybody, to yet another edition of Sit Down, Shut Up, Mark Out, baby. I'm Blade Daly, and I'm joined, as always, as ever, by my co-host, my ace, my Joshi, G, the best podcaster in the history of Canadian pro wrestling podcasts. The best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be. I did it backwards again, Joshi. I don't even know what forwards looks like anymore, but I'm happy that you're here, and I'm happy to be here with you. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, Blade. How are you?
I'm a little tired after that introduction, honestly. I think I wore myself out a little bit.
Well, you know, you're always so passionate when it comes to our introduction, so at some point it was going to catch up to you.
You're calling me old. I know what you're doing. I know what you're doing.
You're a very young man.
I'm a young, almost 45, yes.
That's not your real age. Why do you lie to people? We all know you're actually 22, so.
You're doing my job for me, and I appreciate that. That's a wrestle friend right there. That's
exactly.
That's a restie. That's wrestle besties.
Resty, and I'm actually 15, so.
Yes. Well, hold on. Yeah. People could get the wrong idea. Anyway,
no,
all right.
I'm not 15. Okay, I take that back.
18.
I'm
18 minimum. 18.
So Blade, guess what I've been rewatching lately?
Well, what have you been rewatching lately?
Twin Peaks.
Oh boy. You haven't been ingesting any Garmin Bozia, have you?
Little bit.
A little bit of human suffering.
No. So I just love that the introduction song starts with that bird.
Yeah,
that bird always stands out, you know. But anyway, it's been really fun to rewatch. What an excellent show! Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I, you know, as we said last week, you know, Lynch's Twin Peaks is the height of television to me. It's just the highest the medium has ever reached. My God, I just love it. I just love it. And there is no like other show, no matter how like, you know, there's this touch of mysticism to it, like the first season of True Detective or any of that. It still never comes anywhere near Twin Peaks. And then the return of Twin Peaks, the last season, is the all-time greatest thing I've ever seen on television. So good.
I have a quick question for you. What's up with all the pretty women on Twin Peaks? Why did David Lynch feel like he had to have such a beautiful cast? Answer this question now.
I'm going to guess because he likes being around pretty women. And everybody in that cast is a very attractive looking person. That is definitely true. That is definitely
true. It's a bit crazy.
Yeah. And I think he just likes being around them. And that's probably why.
Oh, yeah. That's definitely the reason. But I just find it funny that whenever I watch that show, I think to myself, can this cast get any prettier?
It's crazy.
I mean, really.
It's crazy. No, you shared some pictures of the cast.
I did.
You know, just some publicity shots from the early 90s, and my God. Just some beautiful ladies. Beautiful ladies.
And Agent Cooper is a fine gentleman.
He's a fine cup of coffee, isn't he?
He is a fine cup of coffee with a slice of apple pie.
But you know, I said at the beginning, like after that introduction, I'm a little tired, but that's not the only reason that I'm a little tired this week, Joshi G. You want to clue the people in as to why else I might be tired?
On Monday, January 20th, 2025,
Mm-hmm.
we officially launched our website,
Mm-hmm.
sickosclub.com, in partnership with Neon Ghost and Pygmy Bundy. So Brett Michelle. And Brett Michelle actually has her own podcast. It's called The Hard Way with Brett Michelle.
Mm-hmm.
And the first episode was released on Monday. We thank you very much for all the positive feedback. She did extremely well. It was very fun to be a part of that panel. I loved it. Felt very K-babe.
Very K-babe. K-babe.
Very K-babe. And as for our website, it's great. There's a lot of artwork there. Brad and Neon Ghost are very talented. You'll find writing pieces from all of us. I haven't shared my piece yet, but I will very soon. And in terms of merchandise, you could buy a Sickos Club t-shirt or a Sit Down, Shut Up, Mark Out t-shirt.
Mm-hmm.
So there's so much going on there. It's a very beautiful website. iBlade Daily is an expert. Terrific job, I have to say. It looks extremely professional. So really, it's a collaboration between us four. We just really wanted to bring different art mediums together, and I feel we've done a really good job with that. And there's still so much more to do. We really wanted to create a positive space for all of you, and we wanted to basically just share our creative juices and make something wonderful happen. And we're really proud of it, and we want you, as in our supporters, to be an active part of it too.
Mm-hmm.
So, feel free to email us with any suggestions, or, if you have some art that you want to share or some writing, we're very open to it. So this is really a collaboration here. This is for all of you, all of our supporters. We really want to make wrestling a safe and positive and happy place.
Sickos Club is really an extension of some of the energy we've had here on the podcast. And Neon Ghost and Brett Michelle are two people who feel very similarly to us. And they have been a big part of our community over on Threads. And, in October, we kind of put our heads together and started talking about this. And, couldn't be prouder of what we're doing, what we have so far. The response has been incredible, as was the response to our last episode. I have to say, the last episode we were talking about, hey, misogyny is bullshit. It really doesn't have a place anywhere, and you don't need it in pro wrestling anymore. And a lot of people agreed with us. And a lot of people also agreed that, hey, it's okay to criticize AEW. It's the only way it's going to get better. For a long time, it would be said that, people wouldn't criticize AEW, and, people would shit all over Vince McMahon's booking, and WWE fans were more honest. And now I feel it's really flipped, is AEW fans are starting to get more comfortable criticizing what they don't like. And the WWE fans just say everything's great, and it's not. It's wrestling. It's definitely not all great. We've kind of flipped in this really interesting way. And I think people were kind of relieved to hear people talking about AEW's not going to go out of business if we are just honest about things we feel are and are not working. And I think you saw a difference in the show this week from the week before. So Neon Ghost put out a story on sickosclub.com this morning talking about why criticism is necessary. And on Dynamite this week, Jeff Jarrett, his character was basically written very far away from MJF almost entirely. His wife, Karen, said, Jeff, I didn't like what you said on the show last week. That's not you. You're a different person now. You're better than this. You're bigger than this. And I don't want you to say that stuff. And Jeff goes out and he kind of, they're in Knoxville. So, just a Tennessee boy, that's where he's from, right? So is Jerry the King Lawler, who Jeff mentions with a lot of reverence, pops the audience, certainly. He didn't pop me. That is for sure. I am not nostalgic for Jerry Lawler. Okay.
You protect that cherry of yours at all costs when it comes to Jerry Lawler.
You protect that what?
Your cherry.
What? My God.
Or your dildo, okay? Whatever.
Protect your dildo. Keep it away from Jerry Lawler. So Jeff invokes Jerry Lawler, which didn't pop me, and I don't think it popped a lot of other people. But, kind of moved on from the MJF part of it and challenged Jon Moxley to the world title. I think that's what they're planning to do in Australia. And Claudio came out and said, you got to go through me before you can get to Jon Moxley. So they're going to wrestle next week. I have a feeling Jeff is going to win, probably through a lot of chicanery. And then we'll go on to challenge Jon Moxley in Australia. If they're planning to headline with Tony Storm and Mariah May in Australia, that's a fine match for, and if that's the end of Jeff's run is in Australia, okay, whatever.
I agree with you. I just want him to lose quickly.
Mm-hmm.
If we do get that match, we get Jeff Jarrett versus Moxley.
Mm-hmm.
I want that match to be booked the same as Christopher Daniels Hangman Page. He needs to destroy Jeff Jarrett. I don't want Jeff Jarrett looking strong. I don't even want Jeff Jarrett to beat Claudio, for crying out loud.
Well, no, I don't either. But, I mean, that's certainly what they're setting up.
Well, my impression is that MJF is going to help Jarrett win that match. Against Claudio, I mean. Because he wants a title shot still. But, yeah, look, I do appreciate that Karen approached Jeff Jarrett and told him that she didn't like what he said last week.
Mm-hmm.
But let's limit Jeff Jarrett's time on TV a little bit, please. We'll get into that a bit more later. But just throwing that out there.
Yeah, no, I mean, if this is a way to get us on the collision course to Jeff Jarrett being off TV, I'm fine with it. I don't want Jeff Jarrett on Dynamite every week. I just don't. Even more so than Jericho. And I am really tired of Chris Jericho, but I am done with Jeff Jarrett.
Exactly how I feel.
And Jeff Jarrett in a world title spot is it doesn't work for me, brother. Just doesn't.
What is this, TNA? Come on.
Yeah, what the fuck are we doing? Let's not draw those comparisons, right?
Yeah.
So I do think that Jeff Jarrett will hopefully be wrestling his last match against Jon Moxley in Australia, and I am hopeful that the Death Riders will just give him the Danielson treatment at the end. I'm sure they will try to make it look like Jeff has a chance of winning at some point in the match. They have to kind of, but
yeah.
Afterwards, Mox, if you want to get heat back on the Death Riders, beating the living shit out of Jeff Jarrett and retiring him would be a pretty good move. So we'll see.
Put the plastic bag over his head.
I think that's probably where this is headed.
Well, if they don't, then they have to tie him up and put him backstage and feed him cockroaches or something.
Wait, they're going to tie him up? So, just torture him and make him eat cockroaches? So it's
yes.
Part AEW and part Fear Factor?
That would be so terrible. Eat this, you son of a gun.
So, we got a Double J situation on our hands, folks. But Dynamite itself was pretty goddamn good. And we're going to talk about it right the hell now. You ready, Joshi?
I'm ready.
Let's do it. All right. So like I said, Dynamite was really good this week. Really strong show. And a big part of the greatness of Dynamite this week was the super strong opening segment of Dynamite. Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega kick things off in the ring. Will says, I can't remember the last time we were in the ring where we weren't, throwing punches. And then Kenny, takes the mic away from Will. And, what I'm noticing is Kenny looks like way more invested in being a babyface than I think I've ever seen him. Where he's like, he's really like just going for it. He's not as subtle as he is known to be, because I think that works more as a heel. And Kenny has more like babyface fire than I've ever seen him have. And I'm really enjoying that. So he takes a mic from Will and he goes, "You don't remember the last time we were in the ring? You know, you stabbed me in the head with a screwdriver from Don Callis because you wanted to prove you were the best." And Will had just said the last time we were in a ring not throwing punches at each other. So it's like, Kenny, you didn't even listen to the man, okay? But
you're right not to listen to him.
Kenny can do no wrong in the eyes of Joshi G.
No, he cannot.
Yes.
And he's right. Ospreay thinks he's the best. Well, guess what? He's not. Okay?
Yeah, and then Kenny basically says, well, hey, you know, I had to be injured for anyone to even remember you or notice you. And welcome to being number 2 again, because the best is back. Callis's music hits, the brown note happens, everybody shits their pants. And Don Callis walks out, and immediately Kenny Omega runs to assault him. I like that this was one thing I felt they didn't do well when Callis turned on Kenny in the beginning. Was Kenny was just like wrestling Don Callis's wrestlers. Like, shouldn't he want blood? Shouldn't he want revenge? And now Kenny's like, really like, fuck you, buddy. I'm just going to beat the shit out of you every chance I get. He tries to tackle Don, but he's intercepted by Konosuke Takeshita. And this kicked, and then Kyle Fletcher comes out, and Will's watching them beat up Kenny because, you know, Kenny just talked all this shit to him. And Will's like, fuck it, I got to help him. And so Will jumps into the fray. And this leads to an insane batshit brawl all over the arena. It involves the entire Don Callis family. Lance Archer gets involved, throws Will Ospreay down some stairs. The camera didn't even see it. So I hope Will didn't take too vicious of a bump to get down those stairs. They're fighting, and it's in this very intimate arena, too. So it's like, if you were a fan at this show, holy shit, right? Like you've got the action right up in your face. And they battle to the back to a merch table. Mm-hmm. Lance Archer throws Will Ospreay onto the merch table and then does the thing that they do on the bar in movies where he like drags him along the entire merch table. Kenny eventually helps Will rally. They suplex Archer through a table. Shout out to the Man Scout and his wife, who were the merch people in the scene. They continue to battle. Archer's out now. Brian Cage and Kyle Fletcher and Takeshita are still fighting with them. They're fought off for just a moment, and Kenny climbs a truss, whatever that's called, a truss. And
a truss.
Ospreay climbs to a balcony. Stereo moonsault from a very considerable height. This crowd is chanting, holy shit. All of us were chanting, holy shit. Joshi, you and I were texting with a group of friends. We were just having a blast. And Kenny goes, you know, Will, I should have trusted you all along. Like, they just, everything, like, it was the magical, like, we trust each other, we're best friends now, like, thing that wrestling does. And you know what? I thought it was really cool. I didn't care that it wasn't gradual and there wasn't, you know, sometimes you just need to do this. And Kenny lays out the challenge. Will and me versus Takeshita and Kyle Fletcher in Australia. Pretty cool. Joshi, please. I just vomited a lot out. Please share your thoughts.
You did. Jeez, clean up after yourself, man.
Sorry. No, I'm going to wear this vomit until the show's over. I want you to have to look at it.
So, I thought it was amazing. What a great way to open the show. I can't remember the opening of Dynamite feeling that hot, you know? It's been a while since I felt that way. And I just got super hyper and excited because they were hitting all the right cylinders. A couple of comments. First off, there's a reason why these segments with Kenny Omega tend to draw a lot of women into the shows, right? Uh, so when I was watching this, it's like you've got, you all know how I feel about Kenny Omega at this point. I think he's the most gorgeous wrestler ever. But I mean, you've got Takeshita, and you've got Archer, who is also a very good-looking man. So it's like, hello, this is why the female demographic loves these kind of segments, all these beautiful men together. But honestly, it was just super well done. I thought it was really cute that they played Kenny Omega's music, and then he said, "Wait, wait," and he had said something, and then he finishes off saying, "Okay, you could cut my music off. Then you can cut off my music now because I'm scared of heights." I just thought that was really
you can
cute.
hit the music again because I'm scared of heights.
Yeah, I thought that very adorable moment. And the thing is, I do sometimes see people online say that it doesn't make sense. Like Kenny's going after the Don Callis family and not the Bucks or like not the Death Riders. But when you think about it, he did say that he wanted to go after everyone that did him wrong. So it does make sense that he would target Callis first. The Bucks aren't even in AEW at the moment. They still seem to be in Japan. So he will confront them when they come back, I'm sure. And as for Death Riders, they're doing their own thing now. So eventually, Kenny and Ospreay will target the Death Riders. It's just not going to be right now. I actually do like that he's going after everybody in this kind of chronological order, so to speak. I like it. And this isn't the same Don Callis family that we saw a few years ago. This is the best reiteration of the Don Callis family because they focus so much on the wrestlers. So you get to see a lot of Fletcher, Takeshita, and Archer and Cage. Like, I mean, I feel Archer has been used way more now compared to when he was with Jake. So I actually think the Don Callis family is working well now.
Well, they have a set lineup, and I think that's one of the biggest things. Like the Callis family, like the first year and a half, like people were just coming in and out, in and out, in and out. You know, like, I mean, how many people in AEW are ex-Callis family people? Like Roosh, Dralistico, Will Hobbs, and a whole bunch more. Sammy Guevara, there were a whole bunch of them. And, the Callis family just never had any structure. And now it does. And it feels like a more threatening stable than it ever has. And what I love is that it feels balanced. They've got the two young guns who are like the head of the stable. You got Fletcher and Takeshita. And then you've got the rugged veterans who are like gigantic in Archer and Cage. It's like a perfect combination to really do some damage. So I think that's really cool. So another thing that I think people might not have noticed was that Ospreay said to Kenny, Moxley's holding the AEW title hostage, and I really want to go after him and kind of liberate the title or whatever. But every time I try, the Don Callis family is in my way, and I can't do this alone. Now, to me, that's like, hey, after we're done with this Callis family thing, Will Ospreay is going to be in the world title picture. And maybe Kenny Omega will be too. That's fucking exciting. And by the way, Jon Moxley versus Will Ospreay is a match I desperately want to see. That would be so dope. And if Will was the guy to dethrone Moxley, I wouldn't complain.
That was my understanding too. And it's a match I'm looking forward to. I think it's going to be great. Mm-hmm. And I think we have a pretty good idea of who's going to be in the main event title scene in the foreseeable future now. Mm-hmm. So it definitely looks promising. We'll get into that later, but I wouldn't mind Ospreay beating Mox for the belt. Why not? Like Ospreay's extremely over. He's consistent. He's good on the mic. I also wouldn't mind Kenny ending Jon Moxley's title reign. There's just so many possibilities, and
there's a ton.
And a lot of them look very promising to me.
Absolutely. In really big news, Joshi, the Hurt Syndicate fucking crushed Private Party.
We hurt people.
They hurt those guys so bad. My God. And so the Hurt Syndicate, Bobby and Sheldon, are the new tag team champions. They fucking annihilated Private Party. And the crowd loved every second of it. This is one of those times where I felt bad for Private Party, honestly, because the crowd was against them.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
They weren't booing them. They just didn't care. And that is not Private Party's fault. Okay, that is a Tony Khan problem. This reign was not booked well. It was booked like an afterthought. I don't blame Tony for taking the belts off him at all, because Hurt Syndicate is so hot right now. You got to just go with it. We've talked about how Tony doesn't pull the trigger on things.
Mm-hmm.
And he did this time, so good on him. What does this mean for Private Party? You know, I see it going two ways. They either get these titles back or they break up.
Oh, they should not break up. I think that would be a huge mistake.
Huge.
They were kind of teasing that with Stokely.
Right.
But I wasn't keen on that at all. And also, it was clear that the fans wanted them together. Mm-hmm. Hopefully, they don't bring Stokely back for that, because they're already doing that with the Acclaim. The Acclaim broke up. They don't have to break up more tag teams. They actually need tag teams right now.
I totally agree.
But no, I completely agree with you. They absolutely made the right decision. Hurt Syndicate is so freaking hot right now. And I've never seen Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin this over again. I got to give it to AEW. Their presentation has been perfect.
Mm-hmm.
However, that doesn't absolve Tony Khan's booking of Private Party. Like, they should have been booked way better as tag team champions. They were stuck in fatal four-way matches a lot. I don't know why. They could have done way more with Private Party.
Well, and especially after they built them to kind of like finally overcome the Young Bucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then for them to just kind of hold the belts without really defending them very much. You know, they didn't defend them at all in December. They didn't defend them in January until now, and they lost. And they defended them once. They defended them one time on TV, and that TV, was Full Gear. So they defended them at Full Gear in a 4-way, and then they got trounced. And I just felt like you finally got them to this point where the crowd is happy that they're the tag champs and they're getting over, and then you just put them on pause. And Tony just has kind of a nasty habit of doing that. And I can't tell you how many storylines kind of get put on pause. And the Death Riders, very similar. And we're going to get into that. But this is kind of a Tony Khan cardinal sin that he really needs to get over. Because as a fan, it's frustrating to feel like somebody has momentum and then have that momentum put on pause and not understand why. And not see something better come along that negates it. You know, so, you know, I would say Tony is a good booker by and large, but he has some bad habits, and thinking the audience will have infinite patience is kind of one of his biggest sins as a booker.
Oh, I agree with you. And I'm not surprised that Hurt Syndicate's getting this kind of reaction. It's hard not to root for them.
Right.
You have these two really big guys, monsters in the ring, very good wrestlers. They have an amazing look. It's hard to boo the Hurt Syndicate. I totally understand that. But it doesn't mean that you should. It's kind of like what they're doing with Mariah May. In a way, it's like she beat Toni Storm, which was a really big deal. She's had matches here and there, mini feuds, but it kind of feels like she's a placeholder until Toni Storm wins the belt back.
Yeah.
And I really want Tony to stop getting into this habit. It doesn't have to be that way. A champion should be booked really strong.
Yeah, and if they're good enough to hold the title, they're good enough to have the company kind of revolve around them in a certain way. And that's how you get people over. You know, Mariah's gotten over. You know, the crowd responds well to her, but I think And she's had a lot of great matches, but they're just matches. They're not really feuds. They're like really small feuds. They're just not, they're not super personal. They're just like, you're a bitch. I'm going to try and take the title off you, And it needs to be more than that, Not every match, but like certainly the pay-per-view quality ones. Thunder Rosa had almost no build. Willow had almost no build. And those were the ones with the most build. So,
exactly.
It just is what it is. But the AEW's, this has been a weak point for them lately. And would love to see them get a little better at it. Our reigning and defending Dick of AEW, Ricochet, tried to interfere in a match between Swerve Strickland and AR Fox, but was chased to the back. He tried to stab Swerve with the golden scissors again. He's wearing them in his jacket pocket, which I think is a nice touch. Swerve beats AR Fox for the fourth time, and they shake hands after the match. And then on the Tron, Ricochet is talking some shit to Swerve. And then you see that he's got Nana at scissor point, basically threatening to kill Nana. And I am loving Ricochet. He's one of the most compelling characters in AEW now. When the fuck did you ever think you would say that?
Never. Ricochet has never been this interesting. When I read that he was most likely going to sign with AEW, my main concern was his character work.
Yeah.
And wow, has he surprised all of us.
He had so much more to give.
Yeah, he had so much more to give. He acts like a complete psycho.
Mm-hmm.
I also have to give it to Prince Nana. He's a gem. I mean, chasing Ricochet with the pipe.
Yeah.
That made me laugh so hard. Prince Nana is also such an integral part of the whole Swerve character, and he's always a focal point of Swerve's rivalries, which I love. Mm-hmm. So I love everything about this feud. I know their match is in 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that maybe Ricochet beats Swerve and joins the Hurt Syndicate helps him beat Swerve. And then we get a rematch down the line and Swerve beats Ricochet and then he feuds with Bobby Lashley again or something like that. That's where I can see this all going. Ricochet is one of the best characters on television right now.
He's great.
And I didn't think I'd ever say this.
He's a psycho, but he's like a nerd psycho.
Yeah.
That makes it even better. He's wearing these ridiculous glasses. He's got the scissors tucked into his... what is happening here? And why do I love this much? It's so good. It's so good. So Ricochet forever, baby.
Ricochet forever.
But yeah, fucking Hurt Syndicate with Ricochet as the centerpiece. Give it to me. Give it to me. This nerdy asshole Lex Luthor motherfucker with Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin backing him up. Give me that. That's what I want. I have no hope that anybody else who got a card. I don't think Leo Rush is coming. And I don't think that Mercedes is coming anymore. But give me Ricochet. Just put him in the Hurt Syndicate. That's really all you need anyway.
Yeah.
So just do that and have him win a fucking world title.
Absolutely.
This guy is moving into that stratosphere right now.
Very quickly, too.
Very quickly. Oh, my God. 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Since he turned. One of the best heel turns in a very long time. Mariah May's heel turn and his heel turn. Super, super good.
Exceptionally well done in both cases.
And great point, by the way. Prince Nana is so integral to everything Swerve is involved in. He kind of... It's very different, but there's a similar vibe in the comedy, charming aspect of it to Bobby Heenan that I feel from Nana, because he's physical and he takes bumps and he's a former wrestler like Bobby was. Mm-hmm. And he does everything he does is so entertaining. And you can tell he's probably a super nice dude, outside of the ring. He seems just like he's just full of joy when he's in in front of the camera. This guy's having the time of his life, and couldn't be happier for him and Swerve, man.
And he makes coffee.
Expensive coffee. I wish I could afford his coffee. I wish I could afford it, but I can't. Toni Storm and Harley Cameron have a hilarious vignette together where Tony's being interviewed about her match with Mariah, with Renee. And then Harley walks in and basically says, as, someone basically who doesn't have a match in Australia, from one Aussie to another, I'm wishing you the best. And then Tony goes, well, Mariah, you could absolutely, not Mariah. She goes, well, Harley. Holly, you could absolutely have a match in Australia. And Harley's like, I could. And then they start using all of this Australian slang that goes over everyone's head. And they know exactly what they're doing. You have the two funniest people in AEW in the same place at the same time. And it didn't open a vortex and suck us all in. And even if it had, I would have been fine with that because these two are fucking funny. They are so funny. And I loved it. I loved this promo. I didn't understand any of it. I didn't need to. The point was clear. They're very much both from Australia. And they're very much both going to be a part of the show in Australia. Yeah.
I thought it was hilarious. Toni Storm and Harley Cameron are both so crazy. And I did ask for a translation of what they said. And one of our pals, Bex, the only thing that she understood was that they drank alcohol from a shoe. So good for them. Tony and Harley, keep drinking your alcohol from shoes. That's really a great way to drink, I guess.
Watch for the shoe.
Watch for the shoe.
It was just a great segment. And it was. You put Harley Cameron on the screen, I will enjoy it. You put Toni Storm on my screen, I will enjoy it. You put them on the screen together. Like, Harley could be part of the Timeless Act, honestly. Like,
yeah.
She has so much potential on her own. I don't think they'll do it. But, like, I thought about it later. I was like, she honestly could. Harley's a babyface now. I think that much is clear.
Yeah.
Because later, Mercedes Moné was just walking down the hall all casually, very feeling herself, smiling, kind of bobbing her head to the imaginary CEO chants that were happening. And she gets stopped by Renee. And she starts talking about, she's beating everybody. She's on top of the world. She's Mercedes 4 belts. And she's interrupted by Harley Cameron yet again.
Singing.
This is how much they believe in Harley Cameron. Okay. They had her on twice. Right. So on a show that's almost impossible to get on, Harley Cameron was on it twice. Harley sings a hilarious song and says she wants to get on the money train. Mercedes looks a little confused by that statement. Like, what are you talking about? Get on the money train. And she basically says, I want to challenge you on Australia. And Mercedes laughs kind of like she's being friendly. And she's like, girl, you haven't even won a single match on TV. Like, you can't challenge me. Like, and then she walks off and Harley just kind of takes it in stride. But also another good segment with Harley. And I think we are going to get Mercedes versus Harley in Australia.
Oh, for sure. We're definitely getting that match. I was very, very happy to see my wife, Mercedes Moné, on Dynamite. I really missed her. She needs to be there all the time, but I do understand she had some traveling issues, so it's understandable. But yeah. And I hope we can reach a point where Mercedes wrestles on TV every 2 weeks or something like that. She's just always so fun to watch. But yeah, I thought it was a really good segment, and I think they could give us a very good match in Australia.
Yeah, and I think they will. I think Mercedes, Harley's improving so fast. She's training very hard. But I think Mercedes can take her to a new level because she kind of does that with everybody. And so, yeah, I would very much be looking forward to that. There's no chance in hell Harley will beat her.
No way.
They will try to make you think she's going to beat her. And it'll be a lot of fun. Then there's a jobber guy in the ring. All of a sudden, MJF's music hits and he walks out. But he's not wrestling. And they're even like, there's already a guy in the ring. What's he doing? And MJF comes out. He's wearing these horrid red sunglasses. And he makes a point about Jeff Jarrett. And he starts talking about Jeff Jarrett. Now, earlier when we were talking about Jeff's segment, I thought they were moving him beyond MJF.
Right.
But
me too.
MJF makes it clear they're not. But here's the point that he makes about Jeff Jarrett. He says, Jeff, I want to help you become the world champion, not because I think you deserve it. It's because if I help you become world champion and I get the first shot, I think you'll be easy for me to beat. Which makes sense. But I didn't even get that out of their promo last week. And I didn't even know that was the story that they were trying to tell. I think Jeff Jarrett got super lost in that promo last week. And the whole vision for what they were trying to do got lost. Yeah. Or maybe I just became so annoyed by the misogyny and the length that I just tuned out. I don't know. I don't usually do that though.
Same.
And so MJF's like, he wants the world title and he wants to get back in the world title scene. And as he's meandering the way MJF does, Hangman Page's music hits. And in this group that we're all friends, Joshi is a part of this as well. We're all chatting with each other about this. And we're kind of like, come on, wrap this shit up. And then Hangman's music hit. And all of us are like, oh, wait a minute. And MJF and Hangman have a very brief face-to-face. That is a match I want to see.
Oh, me too.
I want Hangman Page versus MJF, and I want it right now. Those guys should be feuding. That would be awesome.
And by the way, I like that Hangman pretty much told MJF to get out of the ring because he had a match.
He was like, get the fuck out of the ring. Then he beats the guy that he's facing with just a simple clothesline.
Well, yes. What? Hangman Page, as soon as I hear that music, the dun, 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 dun,
yep.
Dun, 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 I get so hyped.
Yep.
He is so freaking cool. He comes right out of like the Red Dead Redemption.
Yes.
Freaking video games.
Yes, he does.
And it was just so fitting because when Jarrett was talking, I told myself, come on, wrap it up. And MJF started talking. It's like, wrap it up. And then Hangman comes out. And I don't know, man. Whenever I'm not feeling something and Hangman comes out, I end up feeling a lot happier.
Well, and I want to see MJF's talent properly utilized. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, that's why I'm annoyed at MJF right now, is like, he's in this thing that's going nowhere. And him versus Hangman and them both wanting to be in the world title picture. That
much better.
Is fucking interesting. Okay. So I think we're in for some good times. I do think, Claudio said that Jarrett has to go through him. He's going to lose to Jeff, probably because of MJF.
Yeah.
And then Jarrett, I think, is probably going to fight Moxley in Australia. And whatever. I don't care. But Hanger and MJF maybe have a date in Australia. Who knows?
Yeah.
But I want those two mixing it up in the world title scene, and I want it bad. So, Tony Khan, you got all the money in the world, and I ain't asking for a dime, feller. Just give me that good booking. Give me that snowman booking. Give me the give me the white powder. That densely packed white powder booking. Come on.
I blade. No white powders.
Well, I'm not actually going to snort cocaine. I just, snowman Tony. All
right, we're gonna have an intervention after this podcast.
Give me the snorty snort.
I want candy. How about that?
I want candy. And then after the match, Christopher Daniels comes out in a neck brace and basically tells Hangman that after their match, his neck is so fucked up that in addition to all the other injuries to his neck, Hangman hurt him so bad that he has to retire and he'll never wrestle again. He tells Hangman, I guess you won. And then I should have been a better friend to you. I should have listened to you. And Hangman looks completely distraught and very upset that he ended Christopher Daniels' career. Hangman is such a great actor.
I know.
There's nothing this man cannot do. Make him your world champion immediately.
Please. Did he take acting lessons or something?
He had to. Like he's been this way since the beginning of AEW though.
I know.
Every step of the way.
Everything he does hits me. It works. And yeah, he looked very conflicted after Christopher Daniels said that, Hangman won and that he apologized to him for not being a good friend to him. The look on Hangman's face was enough to tell you like how conflicted he was. And I just want to know, how many freaking layers does this guy have?
It's incredible. The moment at the end of All In this last year when Hangman's on the ramp and he like walks back, like he might go back after Swerve, and then he stops and his lip quivers a little bit. And then he lets out that primal fucking scream. Yeah. That is the best acting work in wrestling I've ever seen.
Was that All Out, I believe?
All Out. That's what I meant. Yeah. I'm sorry.
That's
so
good, though.
The best acting work I've ever seen in pro wrestling. This guy can do it all. He could be like a really good actor in television or movies or something. I honestly believe he could. So yeah, that was interesting. One side note, Hangman hit the Angel's wings on the jobber. The jobber did not know how to take this move. He tucked his chin and it looked like he landed right on the back of his neck. I hope he's okay.
Yeah, me too.
He looked like he tried to take Swerve's move when Swerve does I can't remember what that's. Well, it's called big pressure when Swerve, he tried to take it like that, like he was going to roll, and he did not make it, man. It looked scary. I hope he's okay. We then had a great match between Jamie Hayter and Julia Hart. These ladies really, really went for it. Julia is in her bag. She's just looking confident and she's feeling herself. She knows her character. Jamie Hayter looking fine as hell. And they just had a fucking really physical, great match. It was awesome to see. It felt like Jamie was challenging Julia to bring up the intensity level a little bit, and Julia did it. It felt, I don't know how long this match was. It was at least 10 minutes. It might have been longer.
It felt like 10 minutes at least.
And Hayter just beats her clean with a Haterade. Like, just put her down. I was kind of surprised because Julia really doesn't lose very much. But she's the one who got pinned last week in the gauntlet. And then she lost to Hayter now. And Hayter grabs Mike and says, hey, for all your bullshit and for all, these big tough guys you walk out with, you don't need them. You're incredible. Kind of like the same speech Ospreay gave to Buddy, right? And I want to do match 3 sometime soon. So, I don't know when they're going to do it, but man, I'm looking forward to it. They're 1-1, and this is a good rivalry. I like it a lot.
Oh, yeah, me too. I don't know when that match is going to take place, but you have to wonder at what points will Jamie Hayter target Tony Storm after Tony wins the belt, which we know will happen because when Jamie Hayter came back to AEW, she said she was going to go after everybody that screwed with her. And Tony Storm was one of those people. But on the other hand, man, I really want Jamie Hayter, Mercedes Moné. So I don't know. I wonder what she's going to do in the next few weeks or months, because those are two really amazing things that she could do, and she could have an amazing match with both those women, with both Mercedes and Tony. So what do you think? Who does she target?
I think she's a possible opponent for Tony Storm. It's hard for me to see her going to the TBS title. One thing that WWF used to do that I thought was cool is like once you were the world champion, you never challenged for the Intercontinental Champion again. Like you only challenged for the world title. I wish there was a little more. And what it did was it made where you stood on the card really concrete. You know, like you started going after the Intercontinental title, and then after you held it once or maybe 4 times, you would go after the world title. And that's how you moved up the card, you know, and it was very obvious where you stood in the pecking order. And I liked that. And right now I feel like there's some confusion with that stuff. And I would like, you know, like Britt challenging for the TBS title a year ago with Chris after she's already been the women's champion. What, you know, I would like to see a little more clarity, I guess.
Right.
But all of that said, I think it's probably more likely that she would turn heel, Jamie, and challenge Tony. I think that's more likely.
That's what I think too.
And it'll be great too, because she'll be a justified heel, you know, like you all forgot that this woman, you know, you all love her now, but she's the one who beat me for my title when I was hurt, and she's the one who injured me, you know?
Yeah. It's a good story.
So we got 2 segments and a match that got a good amount of time, and that's great. But the total amount of women on the show was 5. 5 women out of 40 were on Dynamite. Not enough. It's just not enough. And, you know, we talked about this last week. You can't have 40 people fighting for one match on a show. It just doesn't make sense. It's not tenable. There's a lot of people who seem to believe that Tony has something cooking on that front with Shockwave or whatever. I don't care. That's not real yet. Until it's real,
exactly.
I don't care. So they need to figure out how to have some parity between the men and the women on AEW television. I said a lot last week about it. Joshi, why don't you take this one?
Listen, I agree with you. Like, yes, the women did get more time this week. However, there weren't enough women on the show. And this is becoming a recurring issue. You can't just have Mercedes and Tony and a couple of other women. And I love Mercedes. I love Tony Storm. But they have a stacked roster. So where's Deanna? Where's Taya Valkyrie? Why aren't they beating women up backstage? Why aren't they acting like freaking mobsters? That's where we should be at now. Why not follow up on Stylander and Willow from last week?
Right.
Nothing came out of that. And I know we have Collision as well. But the issue with Collision is that in some ways, the women are featured less on Collision than on Dynamite now. It's like the wheels have turned, you know. You'll have one women's match, maybe a segment. So I don't know what happened here, but I feel ever since Rampage ended, we're not getting a variety of women anymore. And I think that's a shame, because just because that show is done doesn't mean that you cut back on the number of women that you use. Like, where are the Joshis? Where's Shida? Where's Yuka? From my understanding, Shida was in the US for a while doing nothing. Yuka is available as well.
But I would say, like, I hear you about the Joshis, but I would say even before the Joshis, like, you have Aminata, who's always in the States, and she's not on TV. She's not in ROH. She's not she's not anywhere. And you can't have a talent that good not doing anything, you know? Aminata is a prime example that I would give, but there's many others.
Well, this is my concern with Harley Cameron, I believe. There's a pattern, and I'm going to tell you what it is. Last year, we got Queen Aminata week after week after week for a while, wrestling so many different female wrestlers. Yes, she lost a lot. She was featured a lot. Then she disappeared. They choose someone to lose a lot, and you'll see them on TV for a while. So it was Queen Aminata, Sky Blue, Anna Jay. Are they going to do that with Harley Cameron too now? I don't like this pattern that they get into. They use someone nonstop, which is not a bad thing. It's fine. But then that person just disappears because they run out of ideas.
Well, they can't get any momentum that way. I mean,
So
You
just,
know,
I don't get it. Like, why not rotate, alternate a little bit? You know, the Queen Amanada hasn't been there for a while. They just signed Viva Van. She's not even an ROH, for crying out loud. If you're going to sign more talent, especially more women, make sure you have the time for them. You know, that's the problem I have here.
they obviously didn't do that. So
They obviously didn't do that.
It's, you know, this is something that we're not going to drop, you know.
Yeah.
We hate having to beat a dead horse, but we also don't want to be let this issue drop. This is a big deal and they need to do a better job.
And one last thing I want to say, I don't think anyone should be getting their hopes up that Shockwave is coming and it's going to be an all-women's show. First off, we don't even know if Shockwave is going to be a thing. And if it is, there's no guarantee that it's going to be a woman's show. I remember when AEW trademarked All Elite Women, I got all excited enough and thought, oh my God, maybe they're going to get a women's show. Never happened. Right. So I'm just putting it out there, guys. Don't get your hopes up high and assume that Tony's cooking something. We have no evidence of that. You just have to keep pushing and hoping that they listen to us, because the women should get, I'm not saying the women are going to get 50% of the allocated time on Dynamite and Collision. That's not going to happen. I've come to terms with that. But why not 40% at least, you know? That's what we should be pushing for at this point.
They're getting like a 10% of the time right now. I mean,
even 30%.
If you gave them 30%, that would be massive compared to what they get currently. So, you know, and it should be more than that, but I'm just saying, like, they're getting like 10% of the TV time right now. Mm-hmm. And it's a fraction of what they should get. I think Rampage disappearing was a huge part of the reason why is, you know, there were some weeks where you got 3 women's matches on Rampage, you know, and it was great. Moving on from that, Adam Copeland, beat Pac in the main event. This was a really great match. Mm-hmm. Both guys looked fantastic. They worked kind of a methodical style, but they really started to pick up the pace. I really got to say, Joshi, he doesn't get enough credit. Cope can go. Like, this guy can still really, really go. He's in unbelievable shape. He's ripped, his abs. I mean, this guy looks like Jay White, you know, ab-wise. He is fantastic. Cope beats Pac with the Scorpio Skies finisher, basically, which is that fireman's carry cutter thing. And he pins him clean. Really great match. The crowd it felt like they were a little tired, maybe. Mm-hmm. But Cope gets a clean win. Then immediately the Death Riders hit the ring, start beating the shit out of Copeland. And very interestingly, Jay White makes the save for Copeland. And he goes to town. He's starting to pick at and beat up everybody. And then Wheeler Yuta low blows him. Ugh. And they beat the shit out of Jay White. And then Mox puts the Bulldog choke on Cope. We go off the air. Good finish. I thought it was a good finish for the show. I like that Jay White is still being kept in the purview of the Death Riders. You know, Orange Cassidy hasn't been on the show for weeks. Hangman Page is doing other things. Jay White's the only guy from that 4-man match that still has anything to do with the Death Riders right now, and I like it. I also like the possibility of him and Copeland having some kind of interaction. Mm-hmm. What were your thoughts?
I thought it was a really good match. I'm very happy that Jay White came out. I'm glad he's still involved in the storyline. It did seem like the fans were tired at that point, but I still enjoyed it. I would say I wasn't as energetic for that match as I was like the first hour of the show, but I thought it was good. It was a really good match, and I'm just grateful that Jay White's still involved.
Me too.
That's my main thing. And that like you said,
the highlight for me was that Jay came out at the end. Yeah.
And like you said, Cope looks really great in the ring. I just don't want him winning the world title. I really do think he needs to help the young wrestlers. So
he does.
Hopefully that's the plan.
He does. And, I think Cope's pretty smart. I think he realizes he doesn't need to be the world champion either. And he seems like a guy who really genuinely wants to help. I know that Tony has been pretty free with letting him be involved in creative, and that he's always giving people suggestions. So, Cope is a guy that you want to hold on to after he's done wrestling. Hopefully he and Danielson both will be involved in the AEW creative side later on. But that was Dynamite. And we got other things to move on to, and we're going to do it when we come back.
So, there's a topic that I've seen floating around online the past couple of weeks, and I thought I'd bring it up. Why not have a discussion about this?
Now, before you get too deep into this, I do think most of the people listening to this knows how sex works.
Well, I didn't.
Is there something else you'd like to talk about?
Yes.
Okay.
What? This is why I offered dildos to our listeners so some of them could practice. Anyways. So, in all seriousness, this
Speaking
is the
of
question.
dildos.
This is the question, and we will discuss it, I believe. Are there too many old wrestlers, old dudes in particular, on Dynamite right now? So, here are my thoughts. On last week's Dynamite, I felt it. There was Jeff Jarrett, Cope, Chris Jericho, and Christian. It was a little bit too much. Jarrett is being overexposed.
Yes.
You need to limit his on-screen time because I'm not feeling this man every single week. He's not Sting. I've said that before. Sting had a special aura, and he also didn't talk all the freaking time. As for Cope, look, he's doing a really good job in the ring, and he just came back. The use of him doesn't really bother me as much. No. He's having good matches. He's not going to win the world title. At least, I hope not. And I do think he's going to start helping younger wrestlers out again. Chris Jericho, well, we've been wanting him to be off TV for a really long time now. It hasn't happened. The New York Minute skits, I'm not really feeling them anymore. They're not even 1 minute, so why call them 1 minute, The New York Minute thing doesn't even make any sense. I do think Jericho should be used in ROH more than AEW at this point. Mm-hmm. I don't think he's really helping with anything. It does seem like they're teasing Jericho Big Bill. But again, that can be on ROH. Why is it on AEW? I don't know. So, look. It's one of those things where you also have to elaborate on what old means to you, right? So, are we talking someone in their 40s? Are we talking someone in their 50s, 60s? I mean, I would assume when people say old, they're referring to wrestlers in their 50s and 60s. Because let me put it this way. Bryan Danielson was in his 40s, but he was doing such an excellent job in the ring. You couldn't even tell that he was in his 40s. I mean, okay, maybe a little bit, but it's also the way his wrestling style, right? Very hard-hitting and whatnot. Now, just an example that I thought of. You look at Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin. Mm-hmm. They're closer to 50, right?
Bobby is 1 year younger than Copeland, and Benjamin is the same age.
So are they considered old? Because they sure as heck don't strike me as old, and
they don't look old. They don't
look old.
They that's kind of what I judge it by. So like by that same standard, I kind of look at Copeland more as like Moxley's age or like Kenny's age, because he can hang with them and work. I don't think he's as good as they are, but he can work around that same work rate. So Copeland, I think is the acceptable old guy. Christian, I think, is an acceptable old guy.
Yeah.
I don't think it's whether there are too many old people on the show. I think it's the spots that they're in.
Exactly.
Jeff Jarrett being in the world title picture just feels ridiculous. You have Jay White, Swerve Strickland, you have Hangman Page, you have MJF, you have Kenny Omega, you have Will Ospreay, Kyle Fletcher, Kazuchika Okada, and you're teasing Jeff Jarrett in the world title picture? Like, what the hell? That makes less sense than Jericho.
Yeah, I agree.
And look, you know, like, there's a million ways to help Jeff Jarrett see himself into retirement. Didn't need to involve the world title, you know?
No, it didn't.
I do think that they are building him to lose to Mox in Australia, so that Tony and Mariah headlines. But it should headline anyway. It doesn't. I mean, they could book Moxley versus MJF and it should headline. Like,
I agree.
That's the money match, you know. But
yeah,
I think there are too many old dudes in prominent positions getting too much TV time. I definitely agree with that.
Like, look, does Jericho feel old now? Yes, he does.
Yes,
especially in singles matches, he just can't keep up with his opponents. So they need to start using Chris Jericho sparingly. And that's the case for Jeff Jarrett as well. Like, when I think of old in AEW, those are the two that come to mind for the reasons that you had mentioned. Cope wrestles like he's a lot younger.
He does.
Lashley and Shelton Benjamin as well. Christian as well. So you don't really feel it as much. But man, when it's Jarrett and Jericho, it becomes very apparent that these guys don't have any business even holding a title right now.
I wouldn't have Jericho as the ROH champion if it was up to me, right?
No,
but Jericho should be an ROH. That's where he belongs.
Yes, he should be.
If he's going to wrestle. Even the way he takes bumps now and stuff, it's just Jericho wrestles more now than he did 10 years ago.
Right.
And it's just caught up to him, you know? Like, I think he's probably afraid to take time off because his body will break down if he does, you know? I think that's why he's not taking time off. But, like, he does this thing with... I can't even explain it, and you can't see what I'm doing. But even the way he lays on the mat with his hands a certain way, he always has his hands weirdly cupped. And it's just like his body's just done with this shit, you know?
Right.
Like, I have all the respect in the world for Chris Jericho's career. You know, I have a lot of gratitude for him being the guy who put AEW on his shoulders at the very beginning. Because he was the best known guy. I don't care what anyone says. He was the best known guy. He was a bigger star than even Moxley when AEW started. And him and Moxley were the two big stars that Tony had. Kenny was an unknown entity on U.S. television. The Bucks, unknown entities. Cody, known as a jobber in the WWE, you know? Mm-hmm. So I really think Jericho's done a lot of great things for AEW. But it's really time to like figure out how to wrap him up. Him being how many times has he defended the ROH title? Once against Cardona?
So, yeah.
That was a terrible match. That was a really bad match.
Yep.
And then he was wrestling somebody else recently and totally.
Oh, Dax.
And the finish got totally fucked up.
Yeah.
It was embarrassing.
It was really
bad. I've never seen Jericho look so disoriented in a match before. And so I'm not trying to trash Chris Jericho, but it is time to move on. And Jeff Jarrett, by God, like, I liked him when he was coming out with Satnam Singh and Karen Jarrett and Jay Lethal and just kind of being a carny douchebag, you know, whatever. I liked that, but this is too much. Him in the main event is too much. I don't want this. This feels very Roddy Piper in WCW.
Yes.
Where he's just too old to be at this level. And, you know, help the young guys. That's what you need to be doing.
And I hate to say it, man, but Jeff Jarrett is very TNA. Very TNA. And you don't want that kind of image in AEW.
Right.
When I think of Jeff Jarrett in TNA, what I think of is he booked himself to win the world title a lot. So it's not a good look, you know?
Yeah, when Jeff talks about being a 12-time world champion or whatever, I'm like, yeah, but I mean, it was mostly in TNA and the dying days of WCW. So, like,
exactly.
You know, it's not like they were like super prestigious title reigns. The best days of TNA were when Jeff Jarrett didn't have that title. So,
exactly.
Yeah. So, do I think they have an old guy problem? They have an old guy in positions they shouldn't be in problem.
Right.
And it's really just two of them, but they're getting too much TV time.
That's the problem.
That's the problem. And so if we're building to Jeff getting murdered in Australia, fine. Like, that's kind of how I see it. I can swallow 2 more weeks of this crap. I would prefer not to, but I can't. But if it goes on any longer than that, they're fucking up if it goes on any longer than that. This is a debatable call as it is right now.
Yeah.
But there's no debate that if it goes on any longer, that's a complete fuck up.
So the next 2 topics that I want to talk about go hand in hand. I would say another part of AEW that people seem to be very torn on is how we're feeling about the Death Riders. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to spend too much time on this. Mm-hmm. But I'll give my thoughts, and Blade, I would like you to share your thoughts as well. I don't hate Death Riders, okay? I've kind of accepted that they've completely deviated from what they originally were supposed to be. I did like the way Hobbs was presented last week. I like that Jay White is still involved in the storyline. The thing is that, unfortunately, their storyline doesn't feel like the most important thing that's going on in AEW right now. And it doesn't really feel like it should be in the main event spot. So I'm kind of at the point where I'm enjoying other aspects of the show more, such as Kenny Omega and Ospreay versus the Don Callis family, Ricochet Swerve, Hurt Syndicate. I don't know how they can rectify this. It's not that it's bad. It's just that other things they're doing in AEW right now are better. So when we look at the world title picture, and maybe once these guys are more involved, the whole storyline will get better, but I'm not counting on it. I mean, I think the matches are going to be better, and I think that Jon Moxley is going to have to drop that belt sooner than later. Like, I don't want him to be champion until All In. I hope that's not the plan. But in terms of the world title picture, once Kenny's involved and Ospreay's involved, and we got Swerve back there, and Hangman, Switchblade, and MJF, but honestly, MJF's character work needs some tweaking, and it needs tweaking fast if we want him to be in the title picture again, because right now, he's not getting the same crowd reactions like he used to. He needs to change something. So the thing about it is, it's not that I hate it, it's the worst thing ever. It doesn't feel very important to me. And I feel like even when on the shows, by the time we get to the Death Rider stuff, the fans aren't as loud as they are for other storylines and wrestlers. So I don't really know what the solution is at this point. But man, like, the other stuff that's going on the show, man, it's just superior. Can't really, it is what it is type of thing. But at the same time, I think Death Riders need to stop running away, from the baby faces and acting all cowardly. And actually, I don't know. It's like, okay, so they tied up FTR and the Rock and Roll Express, and that's it. That's literally all they did to them. It's like, that's kind of lame.
What was that?
What was
weeks
that?
ago on Collision, like,
yeah,
it was just like, hey, look, we tied up your friends, and then
just left them there. That's
they
it.
Just left. It's like, what do
It's
you
like
even do?
Ricochet is way more intimidating than these guys.
Yeah,
for
now
crying out loud.
they did give the concerto to Ricky Morton this week. That was better.
Okay, yeah, that's true.
That was better. But I think, you know, what I would say with the Death Riders is that there's a tremendous amount of disappointment with what they've become. Because they were doing this whole thing with Wheeler Yuta. Like, is he being brainwashed? Is he being, you know, they were talking about that on TV a lot.
Yeah.
And then even that's kind of been dropped. And now he's just a ghoul bad guy who's just another mindless zombie acolyte of Jon Moxley. And Jon Moxley is being portrayed more like a conventional chicken shit heel. And, you know, I think it's necessary to show the hypocrisy of the heels, and that's good. But I think there's been no progression of this is what we were talking about with Tony earlier. He expects too much from the audience. He expects too much patience. I give AEW so much latitude, and I'm as forgiving as they come. And this is not good storytelling. It's just, I don't hate it. I don't think it's the worst thing I've ever seen. You know, I just am starting not to care about it. And that's actually worse than if I hated it. So,
yeah,
I think that, you know, you listed that world title scene. It's almost like somebody wrote it out for you. And why can't I have that? Why do I have to get through Jeff Jarrett and Cope first?
Yeah.
You know, because right now what it feels like is I've got these two people who clearly aren't going to win lined up to face Mox. And then you've got this murderer's row of Kenny, Ospreay, Swerve, Hangman, MJF, Jay White, right? Any one of those guys could take the belt, you know? And MJF, I think he can totally be heated up again as soon as he's wrestling regularly. He's just not wrestling. And this thing they tried to do with Jarrett just didn't work. And I think it dragged MJF down. And I think MJF's still partly to blame for it. But I think he didn't come back feeling refreshed. Like, MJF felt confusing when he came back because of all the I'm watching you from my scary mansion shit they were doing. So, you know, I just think MJF, he'll totally recover. But I just think,
oh yeah,
they just need to change direction for him and start making him feel like a threat again, you know?
Yeah. And iBlade, last thing, let me tell you something. If I was an AEW wrestler, Ricochet would scare me a lot more than the Death Riders.
Yeah, because Ricochet will stab me with scissors. The Death Riders might just tie me up.
And he doesn't, and Ricochet, like he does all this crazy stuff that's actually scary. The Death Riders, they're kind of a little bit silly to me. I think what's so disappointing about it is that you've got guys who should feel legitimately scary. Yeah. You know, Jon Moxley is a scary dude. Claudio Castagnoli is a scary dude. Pac is a scary dude. Wheeler Yuta's, you know, Wheeler Yuta. And Marina's terrifying, you know? So make them terrifying. But they're not terrifying. So if Jeff Jarrett is going to be the lamb that gets sacrificed so that we can have scarier Death Riders, good. If Cope serves the same purpose, good. But speed it up, guys. Yeah, then don't keep the belt on Mox for
put
too
the
long.
fucking belts on TV again. Have the trios titles defended once in a while if they're even going to stay, or get rid of them, one or the other.
Get rid of them at this point,
you know. But like the world heavyweight title's being treated like shit right now. I don't like that.
I don't like it either, especially when we have all these promising names, right?
Yeah, exactly. You have the greatest world heavyweight division in history right now, in my opinion. Come on. You got Kenny Omega. You got Hangman Page. Like, Hangman needs to have a glory world title run, you know? Absolutely. He's the next guy I think should be champion for a year, you know?
Long reign.
And I don't think he should be like a babyface again. He should be a tweener. And I think him and Swerve have to, at some point, form an uneasy alliance like Kenny and Will.
Hell yes.
So
violence.
So that's kind of where I'm at with the Death Riders. I think it's been poorly told for months now. And The audience is turning on it, and it's hard to blame them. I wish it is improving marginally, but it needs to improve a lot more. So that's where I'm at with it, unfortunately. And then lastly, last piece of business this week, Joshi.
Yeah.
The House of Black, it's no more.
The party's over.
Party's over. The Black House is turned into a different house because Malachi Black is gone. Mm-hmm. It's been confirmed. I know a lot of people who didn't want to believe it because of all the rumors about him before, but this definitely appears to be true. And good riddance, in my opinion. Just too many rumors about this guy for too long. He's a great wrestler. He's a wonderful athlete. He's a lot of fun to watch. He should have been so much more. I don't think it's Tony's fault that he wasn't. I don't think he wanted to be there. And I think he was very coy about it. And it was annoying. And I'm just glad I don't have to be annoyed by that anymore. The good thing is that Buddy, Brody, and Julia seem to be sticking together. They had a vignette this week kind of showing, they said no gods, no masters. They're without a leader now, so it's the three of them all on equal footing, backing each other up. I really like that. I know Buddy re-signed last year because Tony offered him a shitload of money to stay, and Buddy stayed. And so they're all under contract for a while. I know they're saying Brody King trademarked Cerebus, which is a three-headed dog. Three-headed dog. In Greek mythology, I believe.
Yes, Greek mythology.
Yeah, so that might be their stable name. He also trademarked Hounds of Hell. Yeah. So one of the two, maybe Cerebus is the faction name, and then Hounds of Hell is him and Buddy. Maybe. Very possibly. I love Brody as kind of the centerpiece of the group. And him in the ski mask with the dog is just badass as fuck.
That dog rolled.
Brody it's so funny because I've met him, and this was before he was even in ROH. He was just an indie guy. And me and my friend would go to Defy shows. He was always there. And he was so good. He was my friend's favorite, and he was one of my favorites. But I met him. He is such a nice dude, like such a genuinely sweet guy. He did not have all those tattoos when I met him. He's gained many since I've met him. But what a cool guy. I want a huge singles push for Brody, honestly.
Me too.
Or a great tag team push for him and Buddy. But honestly, this is good for these three. I think they've been stuck in neutral with Malachi there. It's best that he leave, go do what he wants to do. I don't fault him for it. Go do your thing, man. Let's move on from this. Let's just move on from this. I'll feel the same way when Ricky Starks leaves, because that's clearly going to happen. I'll feel the same way when Miro's gone. Phoenix. Just get the fuck out of here, man. I'm tired of hearing about it. I want it over. I want to hear about the people who want to be there, and I want to see these three flourish, and I think they can. Mm-hmm. So I have the thought of, could they add more members now since Malachi's not there anymore? But if they're going to be called Cerebus, that's very specifically a three-headed dog. So kind of feels like maybe not. But that's kind of it for this week, Joshi. I have one more thing.
Go for it.
Have you ever wanted to wear us on your body? Have you ever been like, Blade Daily needs to be on me? Or Joshi G needs to be on me? I wish Joshi G... Well, the shirt is what I'm talking about.
Okay.
It doesn't have our beautiful likenesses on it, okay? It just says our name in really cool drawing style of Brett Michelle. Drew it for us. But go buy our t-shirts. It's at sickosclub.com. We hope you check those out. We have a bunch of other cool merch over there. Sickos Club logo tees, mugs. We're going to be adding more as we go. But we finally have some merch, so go check it out. With all that said, I'm Blade Daily.
I'm Joshi G.
Pro wrestling forever. Get the hell out of here, Jack